Good evening and welcome to First Issues. As tonight we conclude our exploration of the film and television industry, or more accurately, the lack of said industry in Botswana. Various contributors have shared the screen these past 2 weeks, from academics to directors, sharing with us their perception of the current environment in which educated creatives find themselves in.
People are doing what they have to do. People are shooting movies. You know, there is a group of young people on Facebook. The other day they were asking for different contributions. If you are a script writer, come along. If you are a cinematographer, bring your stuff. If you are, let's come and shoot something. So people will always be shooting, producing things because they have to. It's their profession. They have to do something with it. I'm not too sure because I've got people I know who are very close to me and are involved in the industry, and I've seen their struggles. I'm not too sure that it's something that other people would want to engage in as a long-term thing, full-time. I'm not saying people shouldn't do it. I'm saying you have to have a certain type of personality to engage in that as a full-time engagement. So it doesn't look that good, but we have the power in our hands. We can make things, we can change things.
We here at First Issues have heard the plea and now look to those in a better position to facilitate structural change to hear their take on this matter. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show as we sit down with the Deputy Permanent Secretary within the Office of the President, as promised, to hear his views on the various issues presented regarding the formation of a legitimate local film and television industry. The former Director of Broadcasting Services tells us what his views are on the current state of the film and television sector.
You would appreciate that film and TV are a little bit different, particularly with respect to revenue generation and financing model. You do know that TV makes money from selling of airtime or adverts, and in advanced economies, from the rental that satellite providers and cable providers, or the fees that they pay for carrying the content from the TV industry. Whereas with film, you know, they make money from the cinemas and the big productions that people go to watch. In Botswana, quite obviously, we are at a very young age of this industry developing. We have, as you would know, some facilities, studio production facilities that are growing, that are helping independent producers to put out their production and hopefully find a station that will then play them, and in any, as a result of any form of transaction, whether it is by selling or partnership and so on. So I believe we are still a very young industry in that regard, but with a lot of potential, because the local performing artists or performing arts have exploded since, I think, year 2009, 2010, so that the material is out there. The challenges we have is finding a production system that gives us the quality and the volumes that we need. And then the second limitation, of course, is that with one national television channel, only so much can be taken on board and put in there, because it will have to compete, obviously, for space with other programs, current affairs and things like that. So there's potential, I think, depending on the licensing and regulatory requirements, to expand the TV market in Botswana, perhaps to bring other players on board, so that the growing production out there can find the space and the time to be shown to Botswana.
What is the way forward with the production structure challenge that you mentioned? What are the plans, if any, that are in motion to help address this challenge?
I think it really goes back to the production studios and the artists finding a way of overcoming whatever challenges they are facing, whether it is resources to produce television content, or the facilities that are needed at the recording studios to be able to handle a range of production that artists, script writers and producers may want to put together. I don't quite know the details of what on a day-to-day or on an episode-by-episode basis production studios go through. But I imagine that because obviously television production is not cheap, that there will be challenges with respect to finding the necessary funding to be able to put out the required volumes of production and the quality that is expected. So perhaps the local television producing community could come together in one form or another and find a way of collectively establishing a production fund of some sort that they can access and which can form the basis for interested investors to then support, because when you're asking for support, the potential supporters will always want to see what effort you as an individual has taken in the first place. So I think the producers, independent producers, will play a significant part in starting some form of availability of funding or support for production of television and film content.
The formation of a film commission or even a fund is a step that is solely on the course of decision makers. Past contributors make a strong argument for the necessity of these structures, saying their absence has resulted in, amongst others, the waste of human capital.
A commission would work, say, it would choreograph interaction, if I can call it that, between those who are producing, whether they come from abroad and are coming to produce, to shoot locally, or they need services locally, but they come from somewhere else. Then the commission would be responsible for that as to how we gain the most out of what opportunities arise out of that. I'll give an example with a recent movie that was shot here, like The First Lady's Detective. Some people are saying, well, the sets have collapsed now. And the people who are attached to that, because there is no institutional support, nobody knows where those people are and what level of skill they attain and what they're doing with that skill. So maybe they've gone back to cooking chicken and selling in the streets. And then another movie will come and then we'll put 70 million in it or 7 million in it. And then our people will get involved in that and then we'll disappear again. So we are working back and forth without having a proper, but with an institution, a commission would know exactly what were the benefits for that production to the sector and how we are jumping off those benefits. So that would be a commission. Then a funding body would work through, it would have targets. It would say, maybe this year we want to produce one feature film. And then we'll produce, we'll see if we can get 5, short films. And then they would, it's just, you'd have to write and apply and submit your script, and they'll look through the script. And it's not just a matter of whether the script is financially viable, as I said. It's whether, if we shoot this movie, what are the benefits to the industry, right? The movie could make a loss, but they would still want to fund it. That's one. The other thing is, they may also want to put, there's this whole, we're speaking of public and private partnerships. That type of setup is able to say, okay, if the Botswana wants to put money in a production such as this, how do we make sure that we maximize what the Botswana is offering? And how do we make sure that in the future this is attractive for such institutions as the Botswana, right? And how does the Botswana gain out of that as well? So it's a very important institution to have in a country. Otherwise, everyone is trying to get things done, but there is no organizing framework. So you don't even know whether we are going forward or we're going backwards or we are stuck in one place. But it's very important to have those institutions. And you have to understand, we're also spending so much money sending people to study these courses, to study this product. I think it's a waste. If people can go and study these 4 or 5 years, they come back and they cannot use the skill they gained from that. So they have to go to another, maybe go into supplies or something and sell textbooks or something like that. That skill then gets lost.
First, there has to be maybe a film office in the country that would be responsible for most of the major activities that help the industry to grow. Either a film office or a film commission. How will this structure or support structure help grow the industry. One, the film office or commission will organize regular or irregular competitions, if you like. They can organize film festivals, they can organize workshops, they can organize seminars where industry professionals, local and international, can come and interact and talk business and begin to have new opportunities such as co-productions, co-financed projects.
Our guest tonight says the impetus falls on all shoulders.
Well, my personal view is that not one entity really can shoulder the burden alone. So I think all of us, the national broadcaster, in this instance you are referring to Botswana Television, and any other broadcaster that exists in Botswana, do have a role to play in the growth of the television production and content industry by way of course, providing the necessary airtime for production that will have been brought on board to be played for the various audience segments. Obviously, from the point of view of the national broadcaster being Botswana Television, there is reasonable support to the local industry, because you will have seen as recently as 2 years back, a growth more than ever before of locally produced dramas and content that are aired on the station. Obviously, that is a collaborative effort between the station and the producers of those programs, that content. I do think that the independent producers do have a significant role to play too, as I've said, by themselves finding a model of production and funding that will help them overcome what limitations are there with respect to producing content of quality and content that can be sustained, because some of the challenges that you do have episodes that run out of steam after 2-3 seasons, and always we hear that it goes back to finances. So I think the independent producers can put their heads together and find ways, find funding models that can help them to come up with script ideas and productions that can be sustained over a reasonable period of time, so that each time you license, if you are a station, you license a new season, there is growth in the storyline, and there is growth in the viewership of what is being put on the screen. So everybody has a role to play.
Is this industry one you would say is adequately respected at a policy-making framework, as one that could possibly be an avenue of economic diversification and growth?
I believe so. I mean, when you say at a policy level, I'm not quite sure who you have in mind. Producers, independent and otherwise, obviously will work to some form of professional background or guidance that informs their story ideas, that informs how they package their material and the sort of audience they are going after, including the principles of financing with respect to the marketing that they get into to be able to put together these productions. But when you say respect, I think Botswana do love television. I mean, particularly the younger generation. I think they watch a lot of TV, and obviously there is a lot of expectation with the sort of content that they expect to see in there. They want to see TV anytime, anywhere, on any device. And therefore, I think this is a huge potential for TV content makers to explore technologies that are available that can assist in producing quality material on time, faster than perhaps it's happening. So respect, yes. I think it's an industry that has a lot of respect, and an industry that has a lot of potential to grow even bigger and to generate the revenue that they need from sales and from advertising, sales of DVDs, Sales of, I don't know whether there are those who are still putting out material on VHS. I'm sure in many parts of the world this is still a technology that is very much in use. But there is potential in whichever way you look at it.
One of the more notable comments made in our exploration of this topic put forth that if the film and television industry was better recognized as one that could generate income and employ the many Botswana that have been educated in these disciplines, we would see government going as far as subsidizing it in their efforts to promote it. Does Mogomotsi Kaboyamodimo think this assertion holds any water?
I'm not an economist, but I do know that one of the basis for respecting the economic character of this country has come out of the position, I don't know whether it is policy, but the practice of not really going much into subsidies, rather encouraging productions and undertakings to self-finance. And I think we also really can build on the outpouring of skill and capability that we have, given the number of youngsters who graduate from institutions of technology such as Limconqueen. I'm mentioning it not to sell the school, but simply because currently this is one of the institutions in this country that has produced a lot of film and TV making talent. And I think perhaps there is scope in the curriculum that is being taught in institutions to also explore ways of enabling potential producers and station owners and managers as to models of financing content production, acquiring the necessary equipment to put out a production that can sell, that has got quality, that has got shelf life, that the industry can benefit from. So really the opportunities are limitless as far as I can see.
Do you think maybe there's a misunderstanding as to the role of the national broadcaster, BTV, that is maybe creating a sense of frustration with the rate at which we're growing?
I don't believe there is. I just think there's the reality that everybody looks to the one national channel to accommodate any and everything that is available out there. But as you know, there's a difference between a news channel and a general content channel, where you have to carry both news and current affairs and film and programs and documentaries and all of that. I think it is understood that all those productions will compete for space and for airtime. And perhaps one can understand to a certain extent. You mentioned frustration. I suppose here you mean the willingness or wish for every producer of any form, despite the different levels of quality, to find space for their content to be shown on national television. I think all of that goes back to all of us realizing that there has to be some sort of basis for generating the interest and the attention of the viewer on the basis of the quality of the content that they produce. I think it is also fair to expect an understanding for a one national channel to have to attempt to give as much as possible everybody an opportunity to be heard. And I believe through such functions as commissioning productions and evaluating content through the normal procedures that are required, there is good effort to attempt to accommodate and give local Botswana producers a chance for their material to be seen on air.
Previous commentators were divided as to whether the advancement of this sector is best driven by independent producers themselves or by structures and policies made at the national level, such as the national broadcaster.
The starting point, really, is the producers. The producers have to come together and have a common goal and fight for that common goal. Because there's no way, I can't imagine one organization, an independent organization, or even a government department coming forward saying independent producers come together and let's try and form something. That organization doesn't understand, probably doesn't even understand the landscape, doesn't understand the operations of film production. And therefore, we need people who are hands-on, people who know what is happening on the ground. These are the people who know their troubles, who know their challenges, and they're the ones who can overcome their challenges.
I think we need to not just be interested in things that we are familiar with. We need to learn all the time. I think that the question is whether the leadership of the country is prepared to learn from a different generation and then to adopt those ideas from a different generation. But if you've got a cameraman, and you should go out and shoot, do your thing, Nowadays you've got YouTube, you've got all these things. So the ordinary way of going about getting your stuff done and getting your stuff onto the market is different. So you can go directly to the viewer, go into YouTube, show some of your stuff, and then who knows what. So there's so many opportunities. But at the same time, we need to get organized as a people, as a country, and get our creative industries off the ground.
What is the government's stance on the necessity of a film commission or film fund? What progress, if any, has been made in the implementation of such structures?
I believe that there are related institutions that perhaps are pointing in that direction of the development or existence of a film commission. We now have the Competition Authority. I believe they have brought to this economy the benefit of rules of the game or industry with respect to issues of equal opportunity, fair play, issues of pricing, and the cost to the consumer of any program that perhaps the film and TV industry should be putting out. I think obviously we look to advanced economies to learn how they have grown their film and TV industries, and if a film commission is an institution that has a role to play in here, naturally we would be eager to make an input, wherever an input can be made in putting this together. Obviously, producers, script writers, TV stations will be interested to identify what role they have to play in facilitating the work of such an institution, all for the benefit of growing and supporting the industry.
Until next week and another issue of interest, from me, Nameto Sibina, the team behind First Issues, and our sponsors First National Bank, we wish you a good night and pleasant viewing.